Hello ProGuides family and welcome to a new video. My name is Dan and today's topic is 10 things pro carry players are doing that you aren't. Unless you're Miracle. Miracle, are you watching this? That would be so cool if you are. Anyway, the question of the day is, what carry hero do you think is underrated right now? Personally, I think it's Sven. Even if the game is hard, you can still feel like Superman saving the day with an Aghanims every game. Are you ready to learn how to carry your impossibly heavy teammates? If so, let's turn you into that solo queue bodybuilder you were always meant to be. Starting off the list in Legion's hometown, the jungle. You've got to know when to head into the jungle. Every good carry has to know when to go jungle, and the answer is not always the same. If you've played this game for even a little bit, I'm sure you've been cursed with something like a pudge hard support at some point. In situations like these, you probably have to go jungle a lot earlier than normal. If you're not getting anything out of the lane, then why stay there? Get your level 3 or whatever level your hero needs to jungle and get out of that lane. Not only will you definitely get more gold out of the jungle, but you'll usually get way more experience too because you're not splitting it with your support. You also aren't in as much danger of dying while jungling, so the enemy can't feed off you as easily, which is a big deal in patch 7.27, especially because of how much more kills are worth. Okay, but what if my lane isn't a disaster? Then when do I go jungle? Good question. We recommend asking yourself more questions. You need to ask yourself if your support can solo farm or at least safely get full solo XP if I head into the jungle now. If the answer is yes, then now could be the time to go jungle. You'll have a position 5 getting those precious levels while you still maintain good GPM and XPM in the jungle, creating an advantage for your team. At number 2, we have last hitting under tower. Okay, listen up. 7.27 changed the damage towers deal, which has completely changed last hitting under tower. Before the patch, tier 1s did 100 to 120 damage, averaging 110 per hit. Now the towers deal 88 to 92. The damage range is much smaller now, so if you can get used to the new towers last hitting under tower, it's actually less RNG than it has ever been. Assuming only the tower is hitting, you can last hit a range creep after 3 tower hits, a siege creep after 4 hits, and after 6 tower hits for melee creeps. Also, if you're not confident in your last hitting, buy Quelling Blade, no questions asked on every carry. Maybe even try it out on ranged heroes. You'll thank me for this later. At the start of the patch, last hitting under tower looked like the Wild West even for pros. Gain an edge on your opponents by just remembering the formula to last hit under tower and practicing it. Clocking in at number 3, managing your item cooldowns. Of course, this is important for everyone, but more so for carries, since you'll hopefully have the most items and they'll be more impactful, longer cooldown ones. This means a few things. First and foremost, remember you have them. I know, just get good. But really, there are proven methods our pro coaches use to help you remember your items. The first one is a variation of what old school Halo players called the Halo Twitch. They would occasionally do small circles with their aim to keep their hands warm. What I suggest you do is at least once a minute, do an eye circle where you circle your eyes around the edges of your screen. You'll never go without using a neutral item again. Subconsciously remind yourself, hey, I have these items, and even whisper to yourself out loud, I have BKB on X, I have BKB on X. Press X if I see a centaur wind up his stun. These pro players are expecting the unexpected, and if you can mentally prepare yourself to use your items, physically reacting to use them becomes a lot easier. Make sure you keep common items on the same key every game to build muscle memory. Wand always on the same key, BKB, Shadow Blade, etc. always on the same key between games. Pros are also mindful of when to use the items. I'm sure you've all seen an anti-mage pop Manta style for no real reason then die to an Orchid right after. Click on your opponents, learn their items. There are a lot of Orchids being built right now, so I better not be seeing anyone use their Manta style recklessly. Number 4, knowing when to fight versus when to farm. This is the big one I'm sure you knew was going to be on the list. Frankly, pros get this one wrong sometimes too, but that's okay, we're just looking to be right most of the time. Dota is hard, so there's no one right answer, but here's a few easy questions to ask yourself to determine if you can save the fight and be the hero, or if you're better off split pushing and farming. Are you ready to fight? What items do you have? Do you have just 200 gold away from a BKB? Sounds like a bad time to show up. Do we know of any big cooldowns not available for either team? If you look up and see your team has used all their ults and have killed nobody, the fight is probably already lost. Or maybe you're a great carry player who watches their minimap and then looks at the fight and sees the enemy wasting their spells. This is something you should be looking to do if you aren't already. Ask yourself, what will you get out of pushing if you don't show up? If you're super close to a tier 3 already, maybe keep going. But if you're just in the jungle and the lanes aren't in your favor, I would go home. Every time you end up in these situations, ask yourself whether or not you made the right choice and why or why not. At number 5, we have target priority. This one is so big. Okay, all 10 are big, but that doesn't make this one any less so. You are the main DPS heading into the later stages of the game, and you have to be going on the right targets. If you know you have trouble killing the enemy's offlaner because they're tanky, just ignore them. You can afford to go on a better target since you'll have items like BKB and Abyssal Blade, or abilities like Blink Strike that'll allow you to go on the ideal targets. Let your team know we have to go for these heroes first, deal with their offlaner last. Sometimes it's more complicated, but the most important thing is that you have a plan heading into a fight. Even if your plan ends up being wrong, at least you'll learn from it. Next up is knowing when to show on the map. As a carry, we want to be having the least deaths in the game. Our time is money, and as such, we must manage risk well. This does not mean to be afraid to ever show on lanes and just jungle, but it does mean you have to think about your movements. Are you ready to fight, and is your team ready to smoke? Let's just show fearlessly down a lane and hope the enemy thinks we're alone. And this goes for every role. Know the consequences of showing as a powerful hero. If the enemy can see you separate from the rest of the team, they're either going to try to pick off the solo hero, or they will try to take a 5v4. As a carry, it's up to you to avoid getting caught by these rotations, and once you feel unsafe, back. Try to back unpredictably. Don't just go to the nearest jungle camp or straight back every time. Use the tree lines and hiding spots to your advantage. Lucky number 7, safe farm versus unsafe farm. Safe farm is gold you feel like you can gain with low risk. Unsafe farm is gold with high risk. At certain stages in the game, you as the carry will be the one to take the unsafe farm. Like, once you're strong, you can farm areas you couldn't before. Remember that strength is relative. You might be stronger than you think even before you have a BKB in some games. It all depends on the enemy heroes. Also, remember that how deep you are on the map does not determine what is safe. Your vision does. The more people showing on the enemy team, the safer you should feel. For number 8, knowing when to buy BKB. Yes, boring King Bar. But winning is fun! BKB is a meta-defining item, but that doesn't mean we just build it as a second item every game. The biggest trap we hear against going BKB is, but they have spells that go through it. That is the wrong approach. The right question is not what goes through it, but what will it protect me from this game? Yes, you should still know what goes through it. For example, against Bane and Beastmaster on the same team, yes, it might be better to go SNY Satanic. But what if it's just Beastmaster and there are still heroes with huge nukes like Zeus? Don't make the excuse to skip it just because of one spell that can pierce through. In some games, on some heroes, BKB is a farming item. Sounds crazy, I know, but buying BKB as a carry if there aren't any immunity-piercing stuns is a perfect farming item. You can show super deep on the map with no fear because you can just use your BKB TP out. This confidence allows you to farm aggressively without dying, which, like we talked about, means your teammates can safely farm. Nearing the end here at number 9, communication. There will be a time you are the most powerful hero on your team. It's up to you to let your teammates know what you want to do. Do not let your team think you're going to teamfight when really you're just going to push. Make it clear what you want to do. Don't fall into that trap of blaming your team. How were they supposed to know you weren't going to come to a fight if you gave no indication? As the carry, most games are on you to actually close out, so please make your intentions clear, especially when it comes to your decisions on when you want to join fights. And last but not least, number 10, creep aggro. You have to understand this at a base level before you can succeed in lane. Creep aggro, of course, refers to who or what the lane creeps are going to attack. To put it very simply, don't right-click the enemy hero unless you know you're going to start a favorable trade. Click past the enemy hero on the ground, and once you're right next to them, then issue the attack command. If you always right-click the enemy hero, regardless of your distance from them, you'll draw creep aggro and take damage, which will push the lane deeper into enemy territory. If you're playing a very passive lane like Terrorblade Warlock, you can get away without clicking an enemy once. Seriously, let the enemy hit you. They'll mess up the lane equilibrium while you just safe farm with your regen. If your support has already taken aggro, feel free to join in on the trade if you won't miss any last hits in the process, as the creeps have an aggro cooldown of about 3 seconds and won't switch target to you. Creeps will attack the closest enemy target when aggroed, and it doesn't matter whether or not you complete the attack. Just by issuing an attack command, we draw aggro. Walk up close to the enemy to ensure your attack will land without taking aggro for no reason. That concludes this top 10 list of pro carry players' concepts. We worked hard on this for you, and we're sure that you'll get some use out of it if you apply these techniques. We read every comment and appreciate all of your feedback, so please be sure to like and subscribe to be notified of our next video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.